Of Kittens and Broken Things. Chapter 7. Kara woke up. A surreal moment of disorientation. Kara, Lal, Fanning, Shepard, and walls she didn't recognize. She heard Liara's voice. Lal, it's okay. You're okay. Take a moment and breathe. Liara's voice was reassuring, but a flood of panic when Kara, Lal, Fanning, Shepard tried to reach back to what had last happened, losing consciousness over Alchera. She tested her lungs, which she'd felt freeze and crack in vacuum. They were fine. No pain anywhere. She turned her face to look at Liara, who was smiling. You have a lot of questions, and I have some answers. Liara lifted her hand toward Kara's face. If I may, please, Lal. This is a conversation best conducted privately. Lal nodded agreement, and Liara's hand shifted to her face, a caress as gentle as her smile, different from any expression she'd seen on Liara's face. Kara felt warm, overwhelming welcome, pressured and strong, washing over her for a long moment. Liara said, with her words and thoughts gently woven between welcome and love, setting an emotional tone that allowed Kara a sense of accepting peace. Welcome back. I wish I could catch you up quickly, but this will take some time because time has passed. But you are welcome, and you are back, and that's a miracle. Please be patient. I'll answer every question I can. Some I won't be able to answer. Kara, you died over Alchera. Felt like it. Strong, streaming memory with pain and panic, the experience mixed in with parental voices. I'm sorry, you don't need that in your head. I've imagined it thousands of times. Kara, it's 2 years after you died. 2 years of blank space. 2 years of blank space while dead. Who else died? Liara told her the names. Liara's grief had a whole, round feel to it, complete. No rough edges. Kara's was sharp and splintered. In some mental alchemy to blend with the welcome and grief, Liara seemed to encompass, but not diminish Kara's grief. Hold it and honor it. Are they alive too? Somehow? No. Your body was recovered because you were thrown clear and froze in the atmosphere. Bringing you back to life has cost billions of credits. The Shadow Broker wanted your body to give to the Collectors. The Collectors are what destroyed the Normandy. Agents of the Reapers. We've learned a great deal about them in the past 2 years. They are active, and we now know they are preying on colonies in the Terminus systems. Humans and Taurians and Asari are working together to protect our colonies. Unfortunately, we are not winning. I helped to recover your body, and I have worked with Cerberus, who had the funding and the technology to bring you back to life. You have been medically resurrected by a scientist, Miranda Lawson, and her team. I do not understand it. I have worked with her and Cerberus, bringing you back, keeping you secure. Memories flashed, Kahoku and tombs and experimentation. Cerberus is problematic. I've cost them a lot. I've destroyed their infrastructure and personnel. Yes, but you are an asset in the fight against Reapers, who are now the primary threat to human interests, to everyone's interests. Miranda and I have been able to cooperate on putting your mind back the way it was, exactly as it was. I know it's you. There was discussion about placing a control chip, and I would not allow it. There was a great deal of pride in Liara's mind, so Kara asked, "And why is it that they didn't kill you when you made that demand, Ms. T'Soni?" "Because I am now the Shadow Broker, and I have learned a few things about Cerberus myself, things that would become public if you were not up to my inspection, or if anything happened to me or to you." Satisfaction bloomed through Kara. "Nicely played, and congratulations." Liara rippled internal laughter, relief, and more pressured welcome. "Thank you. I'm thrilled. You are a miracle, and I've known about this for 2 years, and I will not be able to contain how much joy it brings me to see you again." What happened to the rest of the crew? Rex returned to Tuchanka and has made Clan Erdnot the leading faction. He's making reforms. Kaden is working with the Alliance. Tali returned to the flotilla and finished her pilgrimage with the information you gave her about the Geth. Karen Chakwas has been helping with your medical care. She's given me updates and understanding I would not have had on my own. Joker is hoping to be your new pilot. Cerberus rebuilt the Normandy, upgraded her, and wants to hand her to you, with an alliance and funding, and an understanding that it is in the best interests of all humans, all species, if you get back out there and help fight them. Desperate times and desperate measures? Liara flowed affirmation. All of that. We can leave here now. You can take control of the SR2 Normandy, and I can catch you up on galactic happenings when we head to our first destination. And where is that? The Citadel. I think Counselor Vicarian will be very happy to see you, after I convince him to not kill me for not telling him anything about you. Counselor Vicarian? Kara was overjoyed to hear that. He's alive. He did it. Yes, Counselor Vicarian. After you died, he offered me anything I needed, told me I did not need a reason, and he has been true to that. He gave me investigational resources, people to work with I could trust, things I couldn't have gotten on my own, and he helped me find the Shadow Broker, helped me appropriate that operation. He doesn't know about you because I couldn't tell him. It wasn't very likely that Project Lazarus, bringing you back, would work. I thought he would insist on going with me, and I know, and he knew. He was needed on the Citadel. He reformed CSEC, and after a year, convinced Palavin and Sparatus to make him counselor. He's used every resource in his power to focus on cooperation and defeating the Reapers. He's always worked closely with Anderson, and then he was able to gain the Asari counselor's confidence and cooperation. We're working on the Solarians, but they're not all that cooperative. Kara felt a massive warming flush, the wild surge of fleet and flotilla of romance dreams and being in his arms, then a physical blush as Liara was present for that entire flood. Don't tell him about that part. You're definitely you. I'll be me, just don't tell him. I don't think he'd be sorry at all to know that you felt that way. He's the Taurian counselor. He can't be involved with me. Ever. That should be his decision. No, it really shouldn't. It's my decision. If you couldn't tell him because he'd be distracted, you can certainly understand that I can't be involved in any way. Humans and Taurians don't... You could. No, I really couldn't. I have to be Commander Shepard. He has to be Counselor Vicarian. And shut up. I just woke up. It's been years. He's probably involved with someone else. Well, there you'd be wrong. Counselor Vicarian is now a powerful, enigmatic, entirely socially unreachable gentleman. And he's going to stay that way. But when he sees you, when he sees me, Liara, he's going to see Commander Shepard. He is not going to like that. Well, neither will I, but remember, billions of credits, Reapers? It might have been 2 years, but are there any Turian and human couples in the Turian hierarchy? Liara hesitated. Kara got impressions, shadows of all the political wrangles, losses, focus. None of it about advancing social attitudes regarding cross-species anything. Working beside each other, yes. The rest? Liara, that's a no. Yes, that's a no. It should not be that way. Well, I should be dead. I can make a lot of things go the way I want them to, by force or by guile, but not in my lifetime am I going to put Counselor Vicarian at political risk. He might have something to say about that. You said I have a ship, Liara. I can get away. I was dead, not stupid. If you really made sure I'm exactly the same person, I still don't know how to have a relationship. I'm just gonna blush and choke and run away, and no advances in anything are gonna change that. I'm alive, and thank you, but ignore the rest of the... Ignore all of that. You died and came back to life. Isn't it time to rearrange some priorities? I'm getting that I wasn't resurrected to indulge a disastrous idea, like dating a Turian counselor whose political position is dependent upon not appearing to serve human interests. It's a miracle that he's where he is doing what he's doing. I have the same priority I did when I died. You made sure of that. Plus, no control chip, so you can't tell me what to do. You guys have been on point. I need to catch up and not screw up what's working. If you keep talking about this, I'm going to hide under the table, and that's going to be hard to explain. I'll tell them you made me do it. Okay. I'm certain we're under surveillance. I did not want to talk out loud. It is likely your Omnitool and the Normandy are rigged for surveillance. I'm not suggesting you trust Cerberus, but we can take the Normandy to the Citadel. We'll get you a new Omnitool. I suggest shutting it down into forced maintenance to disable passive monitoring. There, at the Citadel, we're going to have Garrus and a tech team go over every inch of the ship. If you want to talk, this is the best way. I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad you're here, Liara. Thank you. You feeling okay? Any medical concerns? I'm fine. I feel like me. My ability to blush and want to hide is functional, thank you. I could help with that. No, you really can't. She had a conference with the elusive man, who reinforced what Liara had said. Lal refined and clarified that his concern was the Collectors and the Reapers. She thanked him politely for his confidence and investment, promised him that they could work together as long as their purposes remained aligned. She stated she would not look out specifically or only for human interests, but would appreciate his intel and guidance, and that she would do her best once she was up to speed. She took a tour of the ship, Liara at her side every step. Joker looked at her and said, "I really didn't believe it." Commander Shepard time. Lal liked Joker a lot, appreciated his humor and skill. He required a blend of snark and toughness, but what do you say to a man who feels responsible for your death? She settled on saying, I'm glad to see you, Joker. Turns out you could pilot that pod? My suit was slightly harder, but it seems to have worked out okay. Joker's face fell briefly into shock and then transmuted to appreciative. She got a ringing laugh, as she had hoped, and then he said, "Okay, it's definitely Shepard." Liara said, mock insulted, "Of course it is." Joker waved a hand. "I didn't believe it, but now I do. Welcome back, Commander." "Good to be back, Joker. Glad to see you're here. What do you think of her?" "The ship is amazing. The babysitting AI, not so much." Liara explained. "EDI is the ship AI." EDI introduced herself.
"Welcome aboard, Commander Shepard."
"Thank you. It's been a weird day." Joker added, "At least that." EDI responded,
"If you need anything, please ask."
Lal was desperately curious, but that's what made her cut the conversation short. She needed tough and incurious right now, considering they were going to take a short, civilized hop to the Citadel and then overhaul everything technical. She was not going to invest herself overly in the function of the ship just yet. Lal said, "Joker, take us to the Citadel." "Yes, ma'am." She also chose to meet the majority of the staff once they made it to the Citadel because that list was also going to be overhauled. So she retired to her cabin, which Liara showed her. Liara gave her a long hug. After she'd gone, Lal had a long moment of silence, wondering what stayed the same and what changed. She hadn't seen a glow. She hadn't... "Mom? Dad?" "Yes. Yes." "I don't remember being dead." They said nothing. "We can't do calculus for you either, Lal. We can only go where you know you've been." "But we've all been dead. I don't remember anything. You are alive." "I'm terrified." "Well, that's a reasonable response. We want to see what you can do. Don't you?" Yeah, I do. Plus, it's nice to know you're worth so much." "Well, we'll see, won't we?" "Some of us already see." "You guys are still dead. What do you know?" She couldn't use her Omni-tool because it was bugged. She really hoped Garrus had a heads up from somewhere. They were met at the security checkpoint on the Citadel by a male Turian. No paint. Gray eyes, gray armor. He was big, even for a Turian. Probably had 6 inches on Garrus. He intercepted them, Liara smiling and crashing into him with a launched hug. He laughed and lifted her, then dropped her down to the floor, saying, "Liara." Liara was grinning. "Russ, thank you for meeting us." He grinned back at her. "Oh, I'm not missing this." Liara introduced them. "Lal Shepard, this is Spectre Hemoris Orbison." Hemoris thankfully did not give Lal a hug, but did nod his head and say, "Please, call me Russ. It is an honor to meet you, Commander Shepard." Lal smiled at him and said, "It's a pleasure." Liara said, "He can use his Spectre authority to get us in. You won't be flagged. It will give us some options." "I bet he's gonna make an actual expression today." "Stop. You're mean." Lal was quiet. Russ moved them both through security under his Spectre authority. "I'm not mean. I'm celebrating." He ushered them into ground transport, and when he got behind controls, said, "So, what's it like to be dead?" Dark and quiet. He nodded, as though that were somehow enlightening, adding, "And what's it like to be alive?" A little louder. He laughed. Liara's lips moved into a slight smile. They were at the Citadel quickly, the rest of the time spent in silence. Kara was nervous, pacing her breath. She wanted to see Garrus again, of course. She just didn't want to faint as a result. She really didn't want to cause him a shock of this magnitude before witnesses. She tried to think a way around it. She couldn't go in alone. She needed Liara to verify that she was who she was, if that could even be done. In the reception area, Russ conferred with an assistant, who nodded and moved to the imposing doors that theoretically led to Counselor Vicarian's office. Russ told them, "It'll be a few minutes. He's in a meeting, but it isn't life or death. I just told Burgeon that it was me, you, and a guest. Urgent." Spectre or not, that he was on dash in and interrupt status with the counselor was good to know. Lal said, "Liara, why don't you go in first? Explain. I don't want to ambush him." "No, you can't. This is the best ambush. Shepard, you're killing me." "You won't know what I've said to him, Lal." "It doesn't matter. I don't need to." "He's expecting us both, and a guest." "Liara can explain that." Russ scraped his fringe against the wall and made a sound of distress and pleaded to nobody in particular. "I am not a delivery boy." Lal looked to Russ and told him, "Fine. I'll keep you occupied. Do you have more questions? Make them last while Liara's in there, and I'll answer." Russ narrowed his eyes, looked at her, and said, "Okay. I'll take that deal." Liara looked distressed at her options, but she was being motioned ahead by Burgeon, and she accepted Lal's judgment. Liara entered Garrus's office. He sat behind his wide and immaculate desk, gestured for her to take a seat opposite. She obliged, opened her mouth, closed it, and he watched her carefully. She said, "2 months after Shepard died, I asked you for help, and you gave it to me. You did not ask what I was doing. I believe the people who offered me assistance never told you what my mission was. Did they?"
Garrus looked at Liara, alerted that it was urgent by Russ's interruption and Liara's nervousness. Urgent. Something Liara thinks is urgent. Something that makes Liara nervous. Something that went back 2 years? He shook his head. "No. You wanted confidentiality? You got it. You've given me the same on projects I've asked you to assist with."
"Okay. A few things. Nobody's life is in danger. The opposite. I am not crazy. I am not indoctrinated. 2 years ago, I recovered Shepard's body with your help. Cerberus had alerted me that the Shadow Broker was looking to buy her body, sell it to the collectors. I recovered her body with their intel."
Garrus bit his tongue at that, but held still, the taste of blood concurrent with the influx of shock.
That mission led me to being able to take over the Shadow Broker's infrastructure. I established a relationship with Cerberus scientists and the man who directs Cerberus assets.
The elusive man?
Yes, they told me that they could bring Shepard back to life.
Garrus carefully did not bite his tongue again. Shock, blood, and disbelief.
I reviewed the science. I believed it was possible, but not probable. The doctor in charge, Miranda Lawson told me that the odds were very low, but it was possible. And the elusive men wanted her brought back to aid in the fight against the Reapers. Shepard's body was safe from the collectors, and I maintained a relationship with Cerberus and their progress with her for the past 2 years. The science is complicated, and I don't understand it all, but she's alive. Her body and mind have been brought back. I'm sure it's her. I joined my mind with hers.
Long practice kept Garrus's talons from springing out from under plates and digging into the chair. He never did that when someone was in the room. He'd had the arm covers changed to stone, so when his talons did clench, they did no visible damage, no record of his temper. He asked calmly, "Where is she?"
Liara pointed behind her shoulder. "In your waiting room. She insisted I tell you first, before—"
Sniper training kept him still, kept his breath moving at a chosen pace. Shepard, Lal, alive, and in his waiting room. He was glad Liara had prefaced her comments with the lack of crazy or indoctrinated, because he couldn't hear any more or ask questions at the moment. He only had one request. "Please show her in."
Lal waited for the questions, but Russ had ignored everyone, ignored the opportunity to ask anything, and he'd kept watch on the door. All he said was, "Nice of you to think of the feelings of a guy 4 times your size who could probably have us both executed before dinner." Damn, I wanted to see that. Well, nice of you to consider the feelings of someone who might come back even if they got executed by dinner. Russ laughed and made himself comfortable. They sat in silence until Liara opened the door and gestured Lal ahead. "Good luck. Any chance I could get you to record it? Take pictures? I could come in handy. I'd owe you a favor." She smiled at him and shook her head solemnly. Russ looked overtly disappointed in life and his life choices up to this point. Damn! She reached the door. Liara said, "I told him." And there was the urge to ask, "Told him what? What did he say?" Instead, she nodded and said, "Thank you. We'll wait." "You don't have to." "Oh, yeah, we do. Nobody, me, Russ, or Garrus, is going to let you run around the Citadel on your own." "Right. I'm an investment." Liara smiled at her. "I prefer to think of you as precious. Go." Lal opened the door only enough for her to fit through, aware of the irony of not trying to draw attention to oneself on the Citadel in the counselor's office. She doubted anybody thought she was Commander Shepard, but she didn't want anybody getting a glimpse inside. When she was sure the door was closed, she saw him. He was standing by a huge desk. He was glowing. Liara believed she was herself, and now she finally believed she was herself. She smiled at him.
Garrus watched her slip through the door, holding it close to her body. She turned to look at him, and then her smile. Liara said it was her, but he was conditioned to believe, to know, that it couldn't be true. It couldn't be her. Dead was dead. He stood up because he couldn't imagine offering her a seat, sitting across a desk, and he barely made it up before she was inside, carefully and quietly closing the door, pushing on it a little to make sure it latched. She'd sent Liara in first so he would have less of a shock. She was protecting him. With that certainty, he walked toward her, forgetting that this wasn't a wish-fulfillment dream, that she hadn't been delivered to him so he could say everything he'd wanted to say, do what he wanted to do. The taste of his own blood was his primary sensation until he got close enough to smell that it was her.
She huddled back against the door, hand gripping the knob and about ready to flee, with him bearing down on her with glowing Taurian force.
His eyes shifted to the only movement she made, a reflexive turning of the knob. No. No. No! Fresh provocation, like the flashing movement of prey attempting to run, settled in his mind, combined with the full sense of knowing her best, guarding her memory. This overrode any sense of decorous reunion, had there ever been a chance of that. He reached down and carefully moved her hand away from the knob. The fresh scent of her another shock, something breathed in from her and not from something that had touched her long ago. Strong. His. His hand moved with hers grasped in it, dwarfing her fingers and pulling them away from the door as far as her arm could go, until her hand was pressed to the line of his spine right above his waist. Her other arm scrabbled, his reflexes capturing that arm as well, twisting it behind her back, his hand entwined with hers, symmetrically pressed against her back at her waist, lifting her up so her body was pinned between him and the door.
All of her insistence that she could run away drained out of her, replaced with shock, flush, and weakness, thinking, I really should have let Russ. His mouth moved to hers, a gentle nudge of cool to warm played against her lips, his head, turning to the side to brush his nose against the skin of her cheek, breathed in deeply and let out his breath on a moan, that sound drugging, as irresistible as being remade to live again, his hands twisting around hers in steady caresses.
Tiny bursts of reality attempted to intrude on his reflexive intent. They tried to insist that she wasn't his, that he was treating her like some curated object in a museum, owned and taken. His visceral response was, yes, mine. Each breath rich with her scent, the stroke of his tongue on her lips, even the fact that she hadn't tried to kill him seemed to shore up that she was his. Her hands were tight in his, but making no move to escape, if anything, pressing them closer together. The pleasure-drenched touch of his tongue to hers shocked them both. The deepening sweetness of reverie anticipated by him, unknown to her. Chemistry that felt like destiny and everything right, lapping gently and infusing blood and mind. The primal need to mark, to claim her, gone too long and shaded with missed opportunity and regret, gripped him. He had her scent in his nose, her skin under his mouth, and he needed her blood for bond. He kissed her with dual purpose, wanting her deep under reverie, as deep as he was, all the longing of years and the divide of death spinning as pleasure spread out slick and hot with each beat of his heart.
Having never been kissed before, she had no idea that reverie wasn't just what happened when people kissed. She had no will left over to question what was happening. It seemed to unfold like destiny. This is what it felt like. This is why she'd wanted this, imagined it, and why she was lost. Being alive again made sense. This was what living was.
He kissed her for the suspended timeless pleasure of it, kissed her until he could feel the throb of her heart through her lips under his tongue. He tilted his head and kissed a line down the column of her throat, touching his tongue to her skin, tasting her changing scent, sweat, and heat and welcome. He bit down with care, sinking, sharp, 4 points of teeth until he drew blood. She didn't feel it as pain, far gone in reverie, any pain transmuted into a wash of pleasure wherever his body touched hers. Her blood on his tongue brought out a feral, possessive growl, the choice to bond closer to instinct than thought. She had been solely and completely his for so long, having placed her life, her heart in his hands. He knew he carried forward her mission, her dreams, her, every day. Every single day since her death, nobody would love her more, honor or cherish her with his actions, with his body, with his life. Given one moment with her, he wouldn't waste it. He let go of the hand he'd held behind his back, lowered her to the floor carefully, wrapping that arm around her waist because she couldn't seem to hold her own weight up, which made him immensely satisfied. More of that. She was so tiny, delicate, his palm along her jawline, his hand big enough to cradle the back of her head, hair tangling between his fingers.
She'd been tossed into the deep end of the water, floundering and stunned, sapped of will and betrayed by her body's inability to adapt. When his mouth came back to hers, he murmured,
"Open to me. Open for me, Lal."
He hauled her up against his body, the words making her suddenly panic. She wanted him, but not this way. She couldn't. He doesn't even know my name. He doesn't know anything about me. This is the unbearably attractive Taurian counselor who doesn't know a thing about who I am or what I want, or that this should be forever, and that I'm already open. I'm not Taurian, but I can't. Not against a door, not with him, not ever. She should have stopped him. Should have. Too late. So she ran away. Flushed and shocked and weak and barely able to stand, she twisted out of his embrace and retreated as far as she could, behind a conference table, panting and trembling, holding onto the back of a chair for support.
He had seen her. First shock of his day. Second shock was seeing her terrified, flushed, and hiding behind a table. He really, really wanted to chase her and press her down on that table. Very badly. His. He narrowed his eyes, considering it, and she tensed, ready to bolt again. His plates curved into a tight smile. It had still gone very well, and it was a good day.
She watched him, unable to formulate words or objections that wouldn't provoke him to prove her wrong. She was the same Kara, and he was clearly a new Garrus. Help. She heard her father's voice say, I like him. Shut up, Dad! She heard her mother's laughter. She pressed her lips together and said carefully, the truth. I want to. I can't.
He was slightly mollified by the "I want to," which was at least nice of her to admit with her voice as much as she had with her body. The "I can't" was spoken in bleak Shepard tones. He asked, "Why?"
She wanted to close her eyes, but was too concerned about Turian speed and persuasion and her lack of personal fortitude. She thought, because I'm not who you think I am. Because you want sex, and I want love. Because I am not what you want. She said, you are the Taurian counselor.
"I'm going with you. I'll concede the position."
You can't, Garrus. Think. I need you. Here. Everything you've done. Everything you've set up. Can you tell me that another Taurian counselor will help me fight Reapers?
He crossed his arms over his chest. "Oh no, you're back, and I get to choose my own life."
I'm back, and even I don't get to choose my own life. I have to be Commander Shepard. You have to be Counselor Vicarian. I can't be involved with you.
He felt the chosen bond pound through his blood, and he considered again that conference table, then swore softly and said, "So you're telling me I have to stay here. I can't be near you. I can't keep you alive. I have to throw you back out there into the storm and wave goodbye?"
Her lip trembled. Yes, I'm still me. A very expensive me with expectations of bravery and not destroying everything you've worked for. Taurians rely on you to guide them. Are you going to tell me that if you went back onto the Normandy and I had you on my six, which I would love, that the Citadel would hold itself together? I'm hoping to be a Council Spectre again, here, if they'll let me. You want some other Turian telling me what to do? Or do you want to be the only Turian that can tell me what to do?
Affection and admiration mixed with his pounding blood. She was Damn her, she was right about that. The Citadel unraveled itself daily, faster than he could repair her. Nobody could replace him here. Nobody that he could rely on to hold together what he'd built. He said, I want to be with you, Lal. I have, for years. That's not going away. He thought, it's especially not going away now that I've bonded.
Fine. Let's just get rid of the Reapers first.
He heard the fine and the surrender there, and then the quintessential Shepard grit and determination in the word Reapers. You have a disturbingly inflexible one-track mind.
Yeah, that's why I'm so expensive.
He pointed to a spot directly in front of him. Stop hiding behind a table. I'm not going to. Okay, I want to, but I'm not going to. Lal, come here.
She skirted the table gingerly. This was Garrus. Without consent. He wouldn't. She quickly reminded herself she really didn't know him anymore, but he was glowing. Still glowing. Always glowing. And she really wanted to touch him again, and wouldn't. She moved to where he indicated, and he took her hands, gently.
Lal Shepard, I am yours and have been for a long time. I'm not sorry and never will be for taking your scent, your skin, your blood. You decide when you belong to me in return. He pointed to the center of his crest. I decided this was your mark, your colors. I've had you written on my face for 2 years, Lal. I should have told you what you meant to me, and I wish we'd had more time. Now you know, I don't and won't regret it.
She stared at him, and then drew his face down to kiss the painted lines on his crest. Thank you for everything you've done, and I really wish that things were different.
He lifted his head and looked down at melting green eyes framed in flushed red. We'll make them different.
She wrapped her arms around him, and he pulled her tighter, crest on her hair.
So, Reapers, huh? Again?
She nodded. I'm afraid so.
Yeah. Well, Liara's right. It's definitely you. And you're going to be difficult?
She nodded against his chest. Difficult and expensive.
He said with a shake of his head. Just like old times.